We're deep in it now. The West Virginia football head coaching search is going on. Wren Baker has a hard decision to make, and he's being pulled a lot of different directions. A lot of reports saying that. Is it getting to the point to where it's too much? I think that's an important question to ask, and I've got an important guest on here to talk with about that. Stick around, guys. This is a hot topic on Locked On West Virginia.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is up? Welcome in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. This is another Locked On West Virginia coming at you hot, brought to you by Game Time, guys. That's right, Game Time. Today's episode is going to be brought to you by Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Would love to thank you so much for being part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team every single day, the Mountaineers. So here we go, guys. This guy's been breaking news left and right all week long, has really been involved in this search, has done a great job covering it. And so I thought, you know what? We've got some reports out there saying some different stuff. Let's bring Mike Osti on for West Virginia Sports Now and other things to talk about this. What's up, Mike?
Hey, man, what's going on? Yeah, it's nice to have a moment of a breather to be able to do things like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, some stuff that I've heard and obviously is floating out there is some people will say that Wren is sort of feeling like he isn't able to make his own decision here. If that's the case, Mike.
Yeah.
What would your reaction be to that kind of situation if there are donors / alums / governor, whoever, pressuring this guy into making a decision?
Yeah. Well, college football has been political for over a century. It still is. Yeah. So that's nothing really new. It's been unfair. It's been political forever. And it still is. And now it's obviously very much all about money now in this new era more than ever before. So I don't think that's something that Wren Baker is surprised by. I think Wren Baker is an intelligent person. I think even when he was coming from North Texas to West Virginia, he knew what he was getting into. He had to be interviewed. He had to go through a vetting process. He had a search firm interviewing him. All the same things that he talks to us and asks. Well, I say to all the candidates, will you be able to be comfortable in a fishbowl atmosphere? If you go to a gas station anywhere in West Virginia, they're going to know you more than they would potentially know the governor. The people at the gas station are going to confront you about the week's game, even if you're 100 miles away. You may even get some of that in outside the state in certain parts of Pittsburgh and Ohio and Kentucky. The base of the fandom is all over the world, so you might even get it in Florida where someone's a West Virginia fan and stops you. Can you handle that? But that all had to be asked of him. I'm sure he had to think all of that with him and his family before he took the AD job. So I don't think he's surprised by any of this. And I think he did tell us that he puts together a list of candidates every year, even if the coach is going ahead and winning championships. He did it in North Texas. He's doing it now just to get ready. So he was preparing if he had to, that this could potentially be the scenario, and he was ready for all of this that would be involved. I'm sure he knew Rich Rod would be a thing. I'm sure he knew certain people would be talking. I'm sure he knows where McAfee stands. I don't think any of that is a surprise to him. But as I've said before, as I've been saying this whole time, I don't think Wren Baker is going to give in to simply peer pressure or honestly, kind of what you're describing. And I do think it's kind of like this. There's a little bit, he's almost being bullied into making a decision that I don't think is the one he wants to make. I'll tell you right now, I think Wren Baker wants to hire Andy Kotelnicki. I think that is Wren Baker's guy. So he, as we're speaking now, in the middle of the day here on Sunday, I can't confirm that's 100% going to be the guy hired. It does appear this isn't needing to be breaking news. It's clear based on everyone else who's been hired.
Pretty much a two-man race.
This is pretty much between Rich Rod and Andy Kotelnicki right now. And I do think Andy Kotelnicki was always a top candidate. So was Rich Rod. But maybe it is Wren arguing right now. But I don't think he's going to be bullied, though. I think that if he does hire Rich Rod, then I think he's going to be comfortable with the program under Rich Rod.
Yeah.
He feels like the program can win. I do think a difference to what Rich Rod dealt with 20 years ago to now, as you know, with Wren, I mean, he travels with the teams.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the post-game press conference.
Yep.
He's all over social media. So
Right.
I'm sure he said to Rich Rod, whatever you had before were your Lord and Savior won't exactly be the case now, even if fans give you all the credit. I'm going to go. I'm going to be at the presser. When you're talking to the media, I'm in the corner. You're going to see me. So he wants to be married to this head coach because this is his guy. This is his tenure. And there's a possibility that Rich Rod kind of said, I don't know if I love that scenario where like you're basically my second wife. 24/7. So, I mean, Rich Rod's a different age group than Andy Konicki. We're talking about 20-year difference here in age. I think Konicki is more of a guy that would be totally fine with. I think Wren Baker wants to literally get McDonald's, go to the hotel room before big games, and sit down and say, talk and be friends.
Yeah.
Rich Rod wants to coach some football and maybe recruit, obviously churn money. I think Andy Konicki's okay with sitting down, having McDonald's, and then, being friends while he's coaching football. So we'll see. I don't think this is surprising. I do think that's likely the scenario going on right now. I don't think he's going to bend just because McAfee calls him and says, I'll give you, just numbers randomly I'm throwing out there. I think if McAfee tells him, hey, I'll give you $1 million if it's Rich Rod, but I'll give you $500,000 if it's Konicki, I don't think that's going to be the decision that then Randall say, well, I can't do Konicki. He said before, if the team wins, everyone will be happy. And the perfect example is everybody wanted Kim Stevens, now Caldwell with Mark Kellogg.
It's a great comparison.
He said right in that press conference, I actually asked him this question because I was trying to dance around it. He said right in that presser, I don't think somebody at that level is ready for this job yet. Maybe he's wrong because she's at Tennessee, but he hired his guy and Kellogg's working out perfectly. Everyone in the brother wanted Dusty May, which isn't a WVU guy, but wanted Dusty May initially with the WVU search for basketball. And he quickly told us that he knew that it wasn't going to be Dusty May way before any media or fans knew it wasn't going to be him. Dusty May told him, I have a better offer. I'll help you, but I'm not coming. And then he zeroed in on his guy and Darren DeVries. If he's doing the same thing he's been doing with every search, he's going to hire Andy Konicki. If he does hire Rich Rod, I do think he eventually caves to the donors and the governor and the pressure of all of that and the fans. But I think that would be unlike Wren Baker and his characteristic and what we've experienced from him so far.
Yeah, but I'll push back on it a little bit in that I think, with Rich Rod, I think you can win with either. I don't think,
I do think you can win with either.
And I just wonder, obviously I've been a Rich Rod guy throughout this process. I think Andy Konicki is an excellent consolation. I really do. Like he would be my number 2 guy. Being that Garrett Riley's out of the mix. I was a big Garrett Riley guy too. Okay. But yeah, could absolutely see a scenario where Andy Konicki is successful at West Virginia, no doubt. But I guess I've got blinders on in a sense. But I think if you give Rich Rod resources like we've heard could be available for him and maybe nobody else. I mean, it's fair to say
it's possible.
It could be a situation to where he gets more. Now, yes, they're going to support either way, but with this guy, you're going to get a little more out of these guys because there's this 20-year relationship. You can't 100%. Expect that on both sides, right?
Yeah. No, that's fair. But what Wren Baker may counter with is if we were talking a year ago, that would be more important. And obviously money is really important and West Virginia needs some. But what I mean by that is he said in a public forum, and I don't think he would say this unless it's true. I don't think he's dumb enough to say this unless it's the case, that West Virginia is going to get in the full rev share side. So if West Virginia is getting full rev share in this new college football model, he may counter to Kendrick and McAfee or Pac-Man, whoever is saying that, and saying, if we get full rev share, we obviously need your support and need the money to come in. But the system will be a little more balanced.
Right. Yeah.
So we won't be as screwed over. And this is now a Big 12 that Oklahoma and Texas are going to be 2 years out.
Wide open.
He's just seen an example of Arizona State was picked 16th and they're in the playoff from winning the conference. Their resources, despite being a better media market, are not plentiful. They're not rolling in money. And if you look in that state, the major donors, the major people there want Arizona to win more than Arizona State. So Rich Rod can say, if Iowa State, who's splitting with Iowa, like most of the people there want Iowa to win over Iowa State. Right. The secondary team has been better than the top team of those states. Right. So he's
even Marshall.
Yeah. So you can, Rich Rod's going to say, or Wren Baker is going to say, Rich Rod would be great. More money would be great. Maybe I trust Rich Rod. I mean, maybe he would even be down for a scenario. I mean, maybe, Rich Rod, like, he's not going to want to do this for another 10 years. So maybe Rich Rod does come aboard, and then Wren is able to be sold on that because Rich Rod and him talk, and Rich is like, if I win a Big 12 title, I'll retire in 4 years, and then you go hire your guy. Yeah. Maybe he would agree to that. But I think there's also a sense of, if you love Andy Kotelnicki so much, he won't be waiting in 4 years.
Right.
He won't be waiting in 2 years. And I doubt he would even, I don't know. I don't think he would even come as an offensive coordinator under Rich Rod. He would just stay where he is at Penn State. So if you want him, this is the time. And I even have sources at Kansas, because they all loved him there, that if they would fail again with Jalen Daniels coming back, they may call him next year. Like, he is going to get a job in the next year or so somewhere. And I do think in Wren's back of his mind, he's thinking, do I want a short term with Rich Rod where I maybe go to the playoff and get tons of money? But if that doesn't happen, if say I just win 8 games and I don't really fully cash in and we still win, that's better than Brown. That's great. But I would miss on Kotelnicki, who I think could be there for the next 10 years and continuously win those 8 games. I think that's what he's weighing. I think he's weighing all of that right now. I do think they both can win now. I do think Rich Rod is still hungry. I even went back and listened to what Rasheed Marshall said on our old show a couple years ago before he got back with the program. And he was saying that he thought Rich Rod was still juiced. He was still energized, could do all of this. And we've seen the run he's went on. Right. But it's a different sense of pressure to what Rich Rod's dealing with now. I mean, yes, he's having a great tenure with Jack State, but he started 0-3.
Coming back home, right?
Well, if he starts 0-3 at West Virginia, how much time are you going to give him to turn that around? I mean, there's going to be people who are really going to freak out. He did start 0-3 at Jack State.
Especially the detractors.
Yeah, especially they're going to really scream, because obviously that would mean a pit loss in the mix there. Yeah. I don't think there's anything guaranteed. I think there are people that think, and maybe this is a Disney movie that Pat McAfee's trying to pitch, that like if Rich Rod comes and wins the national title, that Disney's going to write a movie and it would be just greatest script ever, and it would be. But I don't know if that's a guarantee. I don't think they would lose. I don't think they would miss bowls. I don't think it'd be like 5 and 7 year that Brown had. But I also don't know if it's a guarantee of 10, 11 wins every year. And you have to remember, I mean, Dana was averaging 7, 8 wins, and that wasn't acceptable. So if that's not acceptable to him, what is your bar? Just to the fans, not in general, you personally. But you have to ask yourself, what are you expecting out of Rich Rod? Do you expect Rich Rod to do the Pat White era again? Or what if he does the Dana era? Is that acceptable? Because that's closer to what he's been doing. Ever since leaving WVU, Michigan was bad. Arizona was great 1 year and then average. Jacksonville State's been great, going from FCS to FBS, but it's not like he's going undefeated there. So he's really averaging more of a 7-8 win type of thing after WVU. Some better, some worse. That's more Dana type thing. Is that good enough if you hire Rich Rod and it's 4 or 5 years of 7-8 wins, maybe 1 9-win year, no Big 12 title, maybe one, you don't win in the playoff, there's no national title. Is that acceptable? Because that's closer to Dana's first 4 or 5 years. So that's what you have to think. Granted, Kotelnicki could put the same thing together. I'm not sitting here predicting Kotelnicki's winning a natty either.
Right.
It's just. But that's what it's coming down to, I think. I do think Wren's wrestling with that. Does he want his guy? Will he cave in? Does he want to go to the past? Does he want to go to the future?
Yeah.
We'll see still.
Well, let's talk about it on the other side of the break. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, let's parse through what Rich Rod, what Kotelnicki do best as coaches. Let's talk about the candidates, and let's kind of just go on either side of this. We'll talk about it next. This is Locked On West Virginia with Mike Oste. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by Game Time, guys. That's right. It's Game Time. Game Time picks builders at the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. curated deals are the way to go, guys. And we talk the listener through the experience of buying concert tickets with Game Time and Game Time picks. Whatever you need, they've got it. It's a super deal. You can look in the seats before you buy. There's even a lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job protection loss. There's everything, making it the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. And remember that terms apply. Create that account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off, and download the Game Time app today. And then ask yourself this: what time is it? It's game time. And back with Mike Oste from West Virginia Sports Now. Mike, let's talk about these candidates really quick, man. So we've got Rich Rod, we've got Kotelnicki.
Yeah.
I'll give the Rich Rod case first, and then you can jump into Kotelnicki.
You're in the Rich Rod camp. Yeah.
I'm in the Rich Rod camp. So, obviously, let's just get the obvious parts of this out of the way. This is a guy that's won at West Virginia. That's the most unique qualifier for him. He knows what it takes. He knows how to connect with this fan base, obviously. And I think he would replace, maybe not all the way, but in large part, what a Bob Huggins left, right? I think there's a part of us that missed that in our university. And some people get on to us for wanting West Virginia ties, but I do think when they work, especially, they're so special.
Sure.
And then so he runs that unique offense that he's really tailored over the years. It's an offense that can pass to win. It's an offense that can run to win now. And he is such a great evaluator of talent, especially at the skill positions. It would be such an exciting offense to watch, especially if he had elite resources, or let's say top 4 resources. Yeah. And I think, this is a guy that's won mostly at places like Arizona, West Virginia, with less than resources. Jacksonville State, obviously, you're 2 years into an FCS switch to FBS, and you're winning with that. So what's he going to do if you give him great resources? I think it's a fair question, and I think it would be exciting to see what Rich Rod could do over, say, 6-8 years with really good resources. Obviously, you're going to pay him a fair price, probably as much or less than Kotelnicki. And I think the way he wants it structured is that he's going to get more if he wins, and I think that's a cool way to do it. And I think obviously the relationships are already built and in place with everybody except, say, Wren Baker and a couple people on his staff. So, and another great thing is you're probably going to get a lot of great West Virginia names back. Rick Trickett being one of those. Maybe one of his sons comes back and helps coach. Adam Pac-Man Jones could come back. Like, there are really cool names out there.
Maybe he tries to keep Blaine, because that's usually
Blaine, absolutely.
Maybe he tries to keep Blaine.
Maybe. And I would love to see that too. Yeah. So there are a lot of great pros to Rich. Cons, I think you have to look at how bad it would be if he lost. Wren Baker would probably be fired, and it would really hurt his future, right? I think this could really hurt him if it goes badly, and certainly he has to look at that. So it's really high risk, low reward, I think is the best way to put it. Obviously high risk, high reward, but in his mind, would he look at this as a low reward situation? Like you said, 8 wins. What are you going to get with that when you could have just went with the future? I think those are all fair. And I'm trying to be fair here instead of just blinded by Rich Rodness, because we all look back and we want to put air in our helmets. We want to put tape on, all that. So I think, and just like I said, it would be great to have the Pat McAfee support that, if it worked, it would be just an amazing dream that we haven't had in going on 12, 13 years now.
Yeah, it would be a Disney movie. I mean, they literally would probably make a movie. They would honestly make a movie or make a 30 for 30.
So that's my case.
Yeah. So to make it clear, it's not like that's a bad case. Right. And I also want to get this out there for anybody who isn't aware of me. I was in college at WVU. I am a WVU alum now, covering the program, even though not a West Virginia, boy. And I was there during the Rich Rod, Pat White days, Pat McAfee, Steve Slayton. I was there during that heyday. So I experienced all of that. It was wonderful. The end was not. I was there that whole time. I was 100% a fan then. I wasn't, I was covering in college media, but I was a fan then. So I was all about it.
You lived it.
Yeah, I 100% lived it,
Yeah.
and it would be a really cool story. I mean, I even said to somebody recently that would be a real full circle moment for me. That
It'd
he,
be good for
regardless of what
business too.
well, yeah, but like even regardless of what else I do in my career, if I started in college experiencing Rich Rod as a fan and then covering a little bit, doing college radio and with the college newspaper
Yeah.
during the Rich Rod era, and then now I'm covering professionally at Rich Rod, I'm sure he won't remember me, but it would be a cool thing for me to say that happened that would be unique to me, that any of my colleagues who I was at UND2 with at the time, I would be the one who'd be able to say that. They're not all necessarily covering WVU right now, even if they're doing other things in media. So it'd be really, really, really cool. And if I will say the scenario of high risk, high reward, I think is really, really true with Rich Rod more than Kotelnicki in terms of the risk factor. You both maybe could get a high reward with both. Maybe the high reward is even higher with Rich Rod, to the sense of if you win a Big 12 with Kotelnicki, obviously you're going to celebrate and everyone will be happy, but you might not have, the same outpour of emotion. I don't think Disney would make a movie. It would just be a regular year of winning a title. Whereas if Rich Rod does it, you're going to get that whole pageantry. It's going to be even more. The story I just painted of being in college to now professionally, it'll mean a little more to maybe even me personally. Yeah, that absolutely
the
would.
redemption story.
It really would be a redemption story. It would be something else. I mean, it would be one of the greatest full-on redemption stories in 2 decades in sports history. McAfee brought that up recently. It is true. So that is all there. And if you're the guy that brings him back, Wren would have to get credit for that. He's not a West Virginia guy.
Yeah, absolutely. He gets credit.
Now, I don't know if he would get as much as I don't think he would get as much. He would get credit for bringing Rich home. But I just wonder if the love would be so much on Rich Rod that he would be like under the radar. And I don't know if he wants that either. But
that's a fair question. I think you just brought up just now, by the way.
Yeah, because like he's his job is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And he's in his 40s.
You want to get credit.
So I don't think it's unreasonable to say he doesn't want to be a silent partner in all of this. I don't think he should be a silent partner in all of this. And you could make an argument that he is, as I brought up, being partnered with that guy. This is his whole legacy. I think he'd get a little forgotten in that 30 for 30 movie with Rich Rod. It'd be all about Rich Rod in the 20-year redemption. I think if he gives a national championship to West Virginia and he's that AD to do that and nobody has to argue about 1922 anymore, I think he would be brought up a lot more as one of the greatest athletic directors in sports history. Like, I think it would do even more for his legacy with a contemporary like Kotelnicki. But aside from that, it would be so I would love it too. I think the downside of Rich is the risk is really greater because, as you kind of alluded to, while that would be fantastic if you're the AD who brings Rich Rod back and then you go win a Big 12 or you go ahead and win the national championship and you complete all of that, if you bring in Rich Rod and you have even a Dana tenure or worse, like say you bring in Rich Rod in there 6-6 next year and you lose the Pitt game, which is his first FBS game, back and all of that. And that's at home. Say they're dancing on your field again with you as the coach. Not only would you never live that down as a fan base, even if Pitt keeps having average and bad years, because they've been worse the last 2 years, but they really would be able to make fun of you at that point. And secondarily, I think it would ruin Wren Baker's legacy. I think the gamble would really be there. I think they'd have to win quicker. I don't think the fans would let Rich Rod go. I don't think they go 3 years and say, Rich Rod, you build this up, and then when you're 66, we're going to be an 8-win team. Like, I don't think that's going to work. They would expect Rich Rod, especially in his sales pitch, he's talking about winning quick. He can't wait long. Like, we can't have a presser in year 2 saying, I got to build this up, and it's a developmental program. He would then be lying just like Brown lied. So I think the fans would really turn on him. Even the ones who are cool with him coming back now would start saying, you're not sounding much different than what we just dealt with. And if Rich Rod would ever stand there and say, well, you just can't win at West Virginia, I think he would never be able to even come back to the state. So I think there is a risk there that I do think people that are just getting so drunk on the return of Rich Rod or that story, I think they're not fully grasping that there is such a risk. Whereas if you hire Kotelnicki, you could still win. It's very possible they both win around the same amount of games in year 1. He could still bring an exciting offense because a lot of Penn State fans hated Drew Aller a year ago and now love him. And Kotelnicki's a big part of that. Yeah. Jalen Daniels has not been nearly as good since leaving Kotelnicki. And again, from Kansas media, I have had many say that he has vocally expressed missing Kotonicki early in the year. It wasn't even just on the field, but they were very close personally. Like that was a major obstacle.
They
for
turned
him.
two programs around together.
Yeah, and you'd come in, he'd be partnered with Wren Baker. They could kind of be there contractually around the same time. Yeah, he hasn't been a head coach. Yes, he hasn't proven it in West Virginia or even in the Power 4 level like Richrod has. But Dana was the hot coordinator, and yes, it's an up and down tenure. In the end, was bad, but he did win big early. It can happen. Coordinators can win, and eventually just because people don't like Dana or they don't even like Brown doesn't mean that's not fair to put on Kotonicki. So a coordinator can win. You would stop him from going somewhere else because I do think if he goes to Kansas next year and wins the Big 12, their Wren's going to regret that forever if he let that guy get away. And secondarily, I just think he fits more because the other issue is the system now. Well, the system now is so different than it was 20 years ago. Like, yeah, Rich Rod's winning with Jack State, but Wren Baker talked about he wants a capologist. You got to basically be a GM like you're in pro sports, even if you're the head coach. Coaching is almost a secondary thing to Wren Baker. He said that if you don't have the head coaching experience, you got to come in with this big binder of what you're going to do. And it sounds like Kotonicki clearly did that if he is in this final two. So he clearly impressed in order to get here, or he would have been eliminated like the others. So it feels like he's ready to be a coach, and Wren knows that. And it also feels like he doesn't want to let him get away. But it also could be that, are we sure that Rich Rodriguez would 100% know what he's getting into? And I know he's coaching West Virginia, but would he be fully aware of what he's getting into in this era in the Power 4? And it's not going to be unanimous. I mean, they might actually still hurt on some tickets. There might be people that say they are not coming unless it's not Rich Rod.
Right.
That sentiment could still exist. So I think it puts a lot more pressure on the Pitt game than it would be with Kotonicki. There's a lot more risk there. And maybe it means the ceiling is higher. But if you're Wren Baker, this is the most important decision he will make in his life and career, potentially forever.
Until now, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if he even if he does secretly want another job because he's always in rumors, if he swings and misses with this hire, he's not going to get one. Like, this is it for him. This is a big deal.
He better get out quick if he does swing and miss, right?
Right. So, like, we'll see. It definitely between those two. I mean, anything off the wall would be. I never discount anything because that's just the way the world works. But it does feel like between those two. But I do think there's a higher risk with Rich Rod, even if there's maybe a higher reward. And Kotonicki fits more into what Wren Baker wants for this modern day of college football, even though he has less experience.
Okay, so we've got about 1,000 people in here right now. Make sure you check out Mike Ostie at West Virginia Sports Now, at Mike Ostie 11. Anywhere else, Mike?
Yeah, I do a lot of national writing with Yard Barker. I do their NFL power rankings that are going to come out every Tuesday morning. Sirius XM have Mic Drop, which is made available thanks to the Believe Network, everywhere you get your podcast, and on Sirius XM. So kind of a part of that family a little bit as well. And the website and socials, where to find me right now, and it's a lot of action until we get some announcement. I'm looking for a little bit of a break after that, but this is a very busy December, even more than last year when the season was good and people were happy about a bowl game. This is a lot, obviously, right now to cover.
Yeah, 5 and change on X, close to 400 on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for joining in for us. We're going to go to one more break, and they're going to have a really quick 2 or 3 minute segment. Stick around, guys. I'm going to ask Mike for a prediction. We'll be back on Locked On West Virginia. And this episode is going to be brought to you by FanDuel, guys. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get 100 opinion bonus bets. That's if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets and on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, be the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page you place your bets, and that's at FanDuel.com today. Get started with the 100 opinion bonus bets when you win that first $5 bet, guys. Go to FanDuel. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. And I am back with the man, the myth, the legend, Mike Oste. So, Mike, before I give a prediction, I do want to answer a question in chat, and Mike can probably confirm this too. Yes, all reports do say Jimbo Fisher is out of the running.
Yeah, and that was a national. I mean, Ross Dillinger threw that out there about a week
Right.
ago. He was first on that, and I didn't yet hear that when he said it, but obviously trust him, and that does appear to be the case. And
Yeah.
it does appear to be the
That
case.
background check, buddy, I'm pretty sure came back to get him. You know,
maybe that's part of it.
I had Locked On Aggies on here, and he said, "Man, look, a lot of people I trust in the journalism space." Said that he was really hard to deal with. My mic just fell. Said he was really hard to deal with, kind of an ass. So
I've also heard that when he comes back, if he does, because he already has a ring, so maybe he wouldn't. But if he comes back, he wants a guaranteed 9-10 win team. He wants instant national contention, and he ideally wants to be in the SEC again with all the money flooding in. So you could maybe think that's a little unreasonable off his last tenure and maybe all the baggage. But if that's what he wants, then that's not going to obviously work for Wren right now. And Rich Rod and Konicki both are willing to buy in for years to come and not have to walk into everything just a cakewalk, because it's not going to be a cakewalk at WVU even with Rev Share, and that's what he wants clearly.
Okay, so make sure you go to West Virginia Sports Now. Make sure you follow Mike at Mike Oste on X. I'm at Paul Mountaineer. Make sure you subscribe here to Locked On West Virginia. Mike, we've got about 60 seconds to 90 seconds left. I can go 2 minutes.
Okay.
Make your case for Kotelnicki or whoever you want.
I honestly
give me a prediction.
So I'll be fine with either one of them, honestly. My case for Konicki is what I said before. I think it's a more modern guy. I think he's more of a long haul guy. I think he fits Wren more. I think there's less of a risk involved there. I think he'll still win. I think the offense will still be very, very exciting. And you pair him with a solid defensive coordinator, etc. That's worked before. It can work again. And I do think Kotelnicki is going to be the guy. If I had to bet right now, I think that's where Wren is leaning. I don't think he's going to get bullied like some think maybe he will. I think that's going to be the guy, and I think right now he's even trying to sell it. But if it's Rich Rod, I wouldn't be blown off my chair. I mean, either one, I would not be shocked, and both would be fine. But I do think if I had to bet that it's going to be Andy Kotelnicki, especially when you see all the other options whittling away. And I actually think Rich Rod's going to be back at Jacksonville State. So I think it'd be harder to sell if Rich Rod was at Purdue or UCF, but obviously those jobs have been filled. If he doesn't get another Power 4 and you get Kotelnicki, then you can at least tell fans I didn't lose him to another Power 4 team. I got my guy, and he's back where he wants to be at Jacksonville State. That's what I bet happens, but I could be wrong. Who knows?
Yeah, I think those are great points, Mike. And thanks for coming on, man. Guys, thank you for joining us for this discussion. We'll see what Wren does. It's going to be interesting, Mike.
Not up to me.
24 to 32. Yeah, no, Mike's bullying Wren. It's up to it's up to Wren, obviously, and we'll support him either way he goes. You got two good guys in the running here, but thanks for joining Mike and I, guys. I will be back later this evening, probably for another live update this evening. If anything changes, other than that, be looking 24 to 48 hours. Probably expect something. The portal opens soon, so something's got to be done. We got to get going, Mike. Until then, guys, thanks for joining. Thanks for watching, and we're out.